Recording in progress.
Here we go.
I would like to open up the meeting. It is May 26, 2021. It is exactly 6 p.m. Unusual for us to start at 6 p.m. But this is a hybrid meeting, which means that some people are on Zoom and some people are present here. I would just like the members that are here to identify themselves. Selectman Hull?
Present.
Selectman Sabafis?
Present.
And Campuchico is present. There are no scheduled hearings. Public input may be provided using the following methods. You can contact our office at Board of Selectmen at dighton-ma.gov. You can do it via Zoom. The meeting ID number is 874-7734-6693. Passcode is 087809. It should also be live on Channel 9, and it will be uploaded to YouTube. Could we please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
Since the last meeting, 4 residents or people with ties to the town of Dighton have passed. Robin Cameron, Veronique Mombagu, Albert Smith, nephew of Selectman Brett Zagofis, and Kenneth Smith. At this time, I ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Albert Sylvia? Okay, thank you. So we have some scheduled appointments. Our first appointment is for the Girl Scout Troop 76116. It's a project involving the restoration of Veterans Memorial Park. I know we have Tom Ferry here, but who's going to speak for the Girl Scouts? You come up to the podium, please.
Hello, can you hear me okay with the mask?
Yes.
My name is Jennifer Dishkowski. I have been working with these lovely young women for several years now, but this year they are Junior Girl Scouts, and so they are working on their Bronze Award project. A Bronze Award is the highest award that Junior Girl Scouts can earn, so they would like to come up today and talk to you a little bit about what they're proposing to do and why it's important to our town.
Who's going to speak?
Stand right here.
And if you could just give your name when you're speaking, before you speak.
Just say your name before you speak.
You can go to the microphone.
My name is Liliana.
My name is Kendra. My name is Olivia.
My name is Melania.
My name is Emma.
Okay.
We would like to promote the Veterans Memorial Park on Lincoln Avenue. We plan to do this by planting flowers, building a bat house, leaving a lending library, restoring the benches, cleaning the grounds, and leaving kindness rocks.
This place is special because it honors all Dighton veterans. It is also a nice place to go to be with others and sit by the river.
We would like to complete this project because it will make the veterans and citizens of Dighton happier, and it will be a more enjoyable place for people to enjoy. This is a collaborative project, and we are working towards our Bronze Award. Junior Girl Scouts do their Bronze Award for the community to help make it a better place. The Bronze Award is the highest award a Junior Girl Scout can achieve.
Well, I think I can speak for the board that we would be honored to have you do this. It's timely because Memorial Day is coming up this Monday. I know the project won't be done by then, obviously, but it's a great project that you guys are going to do. It is needed. it's respectful to the veterans in town, and I know that Selectman Zergafis' father is a veteran, so it's very important to him, and we all support the veterans in town, so we really appreciate you guys doing this project. Does the board members have any questions?
No, actually, ladies, I'd like to commend you for your service, for what you're going to do. It's important to the town. It builds a sense of community. And also, as a former Boy Scout, I know how important it is to you as you move up through the ranks. So thank you. Thank you for what you're going to do for us. Thank you.
I just wanted to say I had seen a couple of times I had driven by and seen everyone out there, and I wasn't sure if it was a project, so I'm really excited to hear what is proposed, and I wanted to thank you. I know a lot of hard work, obviously, has gone into it already, so thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing the finished product.
Superintendent Ferry, do you have anything you want to say about this? I know they've been in contact with you.
Yes, we have, just to help them walk through the process. We've checked with Park and Recs, we found out it's not their jurisdiction at all. The veteran agent, as you know, we're in between veteran agents. The existing one is very excited about this project. And we also went through the conservation agent because they're proximity to the river, and she's okay with what they're proposing to do in the project.
That's great news. Are there any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we approve Girl Scout Troop 76116 project as proposed this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. So congratulations, you've got this project
Thank you.
going. You got the approval of the town. And we look forward to you coming back when the project is completed so that we can congratulate you. So
Absolutely.
the town is very proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Somebody want to stay?
While we're waiting, would the board be amenable to entertaining when the project is complete, perhaps having like a very small ceremony, even if it's just us showing up with the troop and taking a photo or
Absolutely.
something to
No
that effect?
problem. That'd be
Okay.
great.
It sounds good.
Great idea.
Thank you.
So the next scheduled appointment is Chief McDonald. It's
Hello, sir.
regarding the appointments of some part-time
Oh, yeah?
dispatchers.
Good evening, everybody.
They didn't wait to listen to you.
I know, they don't want to hear me. So, yeah.
Chief,
So I'm here tonight. We conducted some interviews for more part-time dispatchers a couple of weeks ago. In the interview process, it was myself, Teresa Costa, the liaison dispatcher, and Sergeant Cronin. So we interviewed quite a few, and a lot of, there was good ones, real good ones. So right now, the department, we have 4 full-time dispatchers. We have 3 part-timers as of now. The 2 of the part-timers are actually reserve officers. So that actually they're working reserve and they're getting called for dispatch. So I feel that we can add some names to this list, and I think it'll be a big help to this department, and so we can get them going. So what I'm looking for is I like to get them conditional employment, just like the police is. And what happens is they have to be trained. Our coordinator, 911 trainer, is Paul Reed. So he'll set all these classes up, and they have to attend so many classes. And it's in-house now, so which is good. So they can do it right at our station. Perfect. And he'll set all that up for them. Teresa Costa, who's the liaison, will do the training, and along with Dispatcher Bodwin, he's going to be training with them too. So I'd like to make a conditional employment for some of these names that I'm going to get to you, and after if they complete their training, we can recommend them to be a part-time dispatcher in the department. So I'm looking for conditional employments. I'm looking for Alyssa Rigo, Andrew LaPointe, which I think is in-house here now, Angela Mikhalski, say that right, Danielle Mendoza, and Samantha Codden. So we want to get them going as soon as possible because there's certain dates when they have the training. So if we can get them to do conditional employment, get them started. If they complete it, we'll recommend them. If they don't, then it didn't work for them. I mean, dispatch today is the dispatch do a great job down there. They answer calls, they answer phones, they have to deal with the police, the fire, highway, water, all that stuff. And then you got people coming in the lobby they gotta deal with, so they're by themselves. And a lot of departments will have a call taker and they'll have a dispatcher. So we don't have that right now. Hopefully someday that'll come out, but right now we do what we gotta do. So it's a lot of work. So they're the first ones to get the calls. And I'll tell you that the ones we have now do a good job. They're really good. They do a fantastic job. They've done well. I never hear any complaints about them. They're on the ball. So if we can get these 5 for conditional employment, get them going, and then I'll come back and whoever is completed their training, I'll recommend them, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I had an opportunity to go through all the applications and resumes, and you've picked some excellent candidates, and I believe at least one person has some experience in this field, so it's great. Some have some education, which is also great, so I'm supporting the appointment of these, conditionally, these 5 candidates. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments?
My only question, Chief, and I want to thank you for working hard on this and for putting in this request to us. My only question is, if all 5 were conditionally appointed and were to complete and pass the things that they have to, could they all 5 be hired, or is there a number
Yes.
of the 5?
Yes.
Okay.
They all could be hired as on the part-time list. And right now, I should have told you, part-timers, we fill every Saturday 8 to 4 as a part-time slot. And then we have work that a full-timer might need the night off or take a day off, benefit time. These part-timers will come in handy here. I mean, a few years back, I can tell you, we had a lot of problems down there where we didn't have help. And the full-time dispatchers were getting a lot of overtime, but they worked because we had nobody.
Right.
So I like having a bigger list here with names, so we can, we need somebody, we can get them to work.
Any other questions from the board? If not,
Okay.
yeah,
No, we're
yeah, okay.
good.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we conditionally appoint the following individuals as part-time communications operators, pending completion and passage of the Massachusetts State 911 required courses, the CGIS LEAPS Full Access Certification Program, and obtention of a CPR certificate. Alyssa Rigo, 23 County Street, Rehoboth, Mass. Andrew LaPointe, 555 Main Street, Somerset, Mass. Angela Mikalski, 27 Ashland Street, Taunton, Mass. Danielle Mendoza, 1721 Milk Street, Dighton, Mass. And Samantha Carden, 15 Denise Ave, East Freetown, Mass.
I second it.
Any discussion? If not, please vote. Mr. Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. So congratulations to the
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
5 candidates.
And like,
hopefully,
once they start their training and we get them through, I'll come back and tell you who we can recommend and
Awesome.
very good.
who did, the training.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
very
board
much.
again, thank you.
Thank you. The next scheduled appointment is Todd Pilling, who is our health agent, regarding reopening the task force and the task force update.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Pillings.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So it looks like Mike did most of the work by printing out the, typing it all out and having it all ready to go, so. You sharing the screen with people at home, or how's this?
Yes, it's up there as well.
Okay. So, obviously I've been giving you my weekly updates, so you're seeing that the case count is going down, which is fantastic. We're at something like 75% of Dighton has received at least 1 shot, and that's part of the reason at the state level it's the same thing, which is why the state has said we're getting rid of everything. So come Saturday, it's all gone. All the rules are gone. So there's still a few that remain, like for buses at schools or for healthcare places if you're riding public transportation, et cetera, et cetera. They've added a few more things where they're extending some things, but as it applies to town hall and town operations, it's effectively gone. So Pandemic Task Force met, and we discussed a whole bunch of things, and they're here. We'll just, I guess, go through them one at a time. So this is what the Pandemic Task Force is recommending to the selectmen. So plexiglass barriers remain in place. So these are the ones you have on the counter, so when somebody from the public comes up and you're there working, that there is a barrier between you. Again, the rules are gone, but we feel that it's still a very easy way to protect our workers. So capacity restrictions are lifted everywhere, so offices are now at 100%. This meeting room here, for example, right now it's limited to 23. We'll go to whatever the occupancy is, building related,
I believe it's 100.
100. So, so it's substantial increase. Council on Aging, obviously, the prime time, we have to work with them to work that out because they are obviously a different program than an office, so we have to sort that out. Library is continuing to offer curbside pickup. Obviously, you guys have discussed that, where the library is headed. Masks are no longer required in municipal buildings, but that regulation is only for people who have been vaccinated. So even if you've had COVID, you still need, or you haven't been vaccinated, you're encouraged to wear masks. You're not obligated to, but you're encouraged to wear masks because you're the one that can get sick. The people who have been vaccinated won't get sick. So,
Is that the recommendation of CDC, though?
I
I thought they recommend that if you're not vaccinated, you should be wearing a mask. I didn't think.
again, it's a recommendation, but again, the state is the same recommendation. So they can't be more strict. They can only be, I mean, they can be more strict,
But not less strict.
so even if CDC said you don't wear a mask, Massachusetts says you have to. So, and just like if Dighton said, we want to make a rule that in Dighton you have to wear a mask, you could make that rule. I wouldn't necessarily encourage making that rule, but
I'll entertain
you
a
could make
motion,
that
not
rule
that
if
I'm
you
in
wanted
favor of
to.
it, but-
So.
Can I ask you a question about that, though? Or Health Agent Pilling, or to you, Mr. Chairman? So my only issue with this, and I'm not disagreeing with CDC guidance or what the state is saying, is just the use of the word encouraged. I think we're supposed to require it. I know it can't be enforced because you don't know if someone has the vaccine, and we certainly, due to HIPAA, are not going to ask people to show their vaccine cards, but I do think that the board should consider still requiring it with full knowledge that we can't enforce that. I think it's more just a message, but I don't disagree with anything else on the page. I think this is a good job.
As I agree with you, if you try and enforce that, it would be, oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it's not even enforced.
Obviously, through the entire last year, I haven't issued any fines for people not wearing masks or anything like that because the enforcement is difficult at best, and the amount of time you're going to spend. So that's why encouraging is where the state went with it too. They didn't want local boards of health trying to enforce it because I'm the only one in town that has the authority to enforce this rule. So please don't. But I understand it's.
Well, excuse me, I think we can require it, but we can't ask that question.
We just can't enforce it, yeah.
We're depending on the public. Unfortunately, there are going to be those that aren't vaccinated that will not wear a mask and endanger other employees and.
Or
other
just
people.
themselves.
Yeah.
I think anytime someone steps in, everyone has the right to not get the vaccine. I don't disagree with that, whether you want to or not. The only thing is, I just feel like the second that someone steps into our building, whether we like it or not, we are liable for that person. When they are on town property, we are liable, and I think we have a right to require it, knowing that it's not something that will be enforced, because it just can't be. And I'll stop now.
Yeah, no, I just, to add on to that, if people who have not been vaccinated decide not to wear a mask, they can still give COVID to people. They can give COVID to us who have been vaccinated, and then I can give it to my grandson. So I take this very seriously, that people who are not vaccinated should be wearing a mask. So I'm going to support you on that, but I'm sorry, we interrupted you. You didn't mean you have to put your mask on right now.
No,
Well, I wasn't talking. No, I wasn't
You are
talking. So when you're not presenting, so no, I mean honestly, page by page with questions is better than getting all the way to the end and coming back. So continuing onward, what we've been doing is the employee self-certification. Every day, every employee has to sign that they don't have a fever, don't have a cough, haven't been near somebody, etc. That is coming to an end. Again, this is our recommendation. They also were encouraging them to continue to wash their hands and practice healthy habits, clean off your desk, that kind of thing. If they are sick, don't come to work. And contact tracing. So as people coming into town hall, we're taking names and numbers. Obviously, we don't need to do that anymore, again, unless we wanted to. So I don't know what department head meeting next week is. Oh.
Mr. Hutt?
question about gathering of information. Todd, this is not 100% pure science. There's no guarantees that the people who are vaccinated can't get it.
Correct. It's only about 90% effective. Yep.
There's no guarantee that everyone working in town hall hasn't been exposed to the virus.
Correct.
Wouldn't it be wise just to continue to gather that information just in case for contract tracing purposes? It's also a good way to know who's coming in and out of your building as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes time on staff or whatever to point to it or whatever, but I mean, this is our recommendation, but if you want to continue to do it for a little while longer, it's not the end of the world. You know, most people understand why they're being asked to do it when they go places, so. And most people coming in are giving you the name for a building permit or something like that, so you have to take their information anyway, so it's not like they're a stranger when they come in, so.
So my question would be then, without mentioning names or anything like that, the past couple of months, since we've opened up, I should say, have you had to use that list for anything? Have you had to find out that somebody who came into town hall or an employee
That's a good question.
had COVID, and then you've had to do some contact tracing from that list? Now, I'm not talking about other situations, which I know you're doing.
Yep. Try not to avoid saying anything HIPAA related, but we have had employees, town employees who have had COVID, and I think some of them were before we were open to town hall. Since we've been open, I don't believe we've had any cases where we've had to pull the list. The ones that we've had to deal with have not been exposed to people at the counter kind of thing, so.
Okay, I guess I'm leaning towards not doing the list myself. I'll speak for myself, but, okay.
But again, most people that come in, they're here for something, to pay a tax bill or whatever, and you know, during your turn in, so you've got the checks and the names and everything else, so generally you have an idea of who came in anyway,
Yeah.
but in general terms.
Yeah.
But the other thing that you gotta remember is contact tracing is only for somebody you've been within 6 feet of for more than 15 minutes.
Correct.
So if I come to the counter to pay my bill, I shouldn't be there for 15 minutes. And in fact, if I'm the one working at the counter, I'm gonna be shooing you away 5 minutes in because I got other things to do. And, right, so it's only the 15 minutes. So even if you were there at the counter for 5 minutes, I'd say, you're not putting that person in quarantine anyway. And now what's happening is because 75% of the population has been vaccinated, 75% of the people you call don't need to go into quarantine. So that's why they're kind of wrapping it all up, is because you're talking to a lot of people you don't need to be talking to.
Right.
So, but I understand your concern, but it's getting less and less on the,
I was curious, Mr. Pilling. We're not in red anymore. Are we yellow?
we're in green.
We're in green.
This is now the second week in a row we're in green. Yeah, the weekly report that I send out to you guys, right at the top of the page, it says the color we're in.
You know, I look at that every week and I've never noticed that, but it is.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And we've only had one
Awesome.
in all of town. We've had one the past week, one positive. Was that
That was,
grand positive the week from May 17th to May 23rd? We had.
yeah, that was last week one. As of this week, we haven't had any yet, but it is only Wednesday.
So the trend is getting better as more and more people are getting vaccinated and social distancing and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But, the numbers are good, and even your contact tracing, that number's gone down because not as many people are.
Right, and the follow-up calls aren't there anymore, right, it's getting much easier, so. And we've had no deaths in a while, which is a good one, because that was the hard one to,
Yep.
those are the hard calls to make, so. The
I
last
just,
thing is department head
So do
meeting.
we know what a department head meeting next week is on there?
So yes, we do have a department head meeting next Wednesday, has been scheduled, and our hope and expectation is as a result of these updates, we want to bring them forward to department heads so everyone's on the same page.
can I ask a question
Yes.
before we move on?
Yes.
Just quickly, when we talk about the list or not, before the Board of Selectmen votes, I just need clarification. We're not talking about stopping the contact tracing for like residents, right? We'll continue that. This is just like not doing the collection of data when you enter town buildings, right?
No, you're gonna continue doing.
So if
contact
somebody's a positive case, I still call you and say, who have you been near? And like tonight, you'd say, I sat next to Ken, and then we call Ken.
Okay.
But the rest of us in the room don't get called.
tracing. 6 feet
But
apart.
you know what I'm getting at, so, But if you had gone into town hall and you signed in at the selectman's office or the town clerk and you went to see them, I would then, you know, you said, hey, I went to the clerk's office and I'd find out who you had been here, but I say to you, were you there for 15 minutes? And you say, no, I'm not gonna call.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So moving on, the cleaning protocols are still in place. These rules are staying in place till the executive order runs out on June 15th for the cleaning protocols. Right now, we're cleaning our building and I'm assuming town hall like every day, basically, that people are in there, especially the high-touch surfaces like the doorknobs, the countertops, that kind of thing, the bathrooms. So obviously, as this is coming to an end, we're recommending you don't need to clean as frequently. It's just not required as often anymore. And you can see what we're recommending there: 5 times a week for the police station, twice a week at town hall and old town hall and the highway department, and once a week for library and prime time. Obviously, we talked about we're going to 100% for everything, and again, that means that now this room is going to go to 100 people. The town hall lower meeting room will now also be available at that capacity, which I don't remember what that is off the top of my head, but it's like probably 15 or something.
No, it's more than that. It's over 20.
Oh, it's over 20? Okay, so that's opening. Obviously, we got town meeting coming up, and that was obviously difficult to squeeze people in when you have to lose 2 rows and all that. That's all gone. Everybody can sit next to each other. Obviously, when you have 100 people in a building that holds 900, people aren't going to be sitting next to each other, and there's going to be social distancing. We're thinking that we could put up some signs that just say, hey, please be conscious of people around you and leave some space and just kind of just suggest it, but no enforcement of anything. Still rolling along there. And yeah, so this is the next big one here is, as of June 15th, this virtual stuff is quote unquote not going to be allowed. That it has to be in person. So if somebody wants to come here, they either have to be here in person or they have to submit a letter in writing in order to get their thoughts across. The governor's talking about finding a way, because obviously people have become accustomed to this now, to try and make it as part of the system. And obviously they're talking about extending the executive order through September. But this is where we get into is, do we want people to be here at these meetings? Personally, I find them to be far more productive when the people are here than when you're trying to listen to them at home and see what's going on. But obviously there's an understanding that there's a lot of people that have always watched you at home from local cable TV and watched it live, and that's been fine for them. But if they got something to say, you find out a way to get the information in. And whether that be that we continue to do what we're doing here, some type of hybrid, or we just say, hey, if you want to call in, call the office and we'll set up for you to be able to call in. And so that it's like you have to say in advance you want to call in. But that's something that's still kind of ongoing. Obviously, you get cable involved in this, and we're talking, as Mr. Mullen stated earlier, about microphones and cameras and all the rest of it. So we're obviously trying to ramp up the game, but that's where we're at. So that, I think, is going to be about the only thing that might be difficult. But did you have something you wanted to add? Or?
So yeah, I mean, I just think, I mean, I think as the board has discussed, and I think the public really is, and our residents are really at a point where Zoom is actually expected. Right. In terms of accessibility and how do we find a way to conduct our meetings actually in person while finding a way to continue that expectation in a practical way. I think, is an expectation where people can tune in through Zoom as well. And I know, actually every city and town is trying to anticipate how to do that right now, and I think, if I had to guess, that's why the governor has filed an extension to give everyone time to adjust and actually come up with a uniform plan about how to do that.
I have a question about this, though. Sure. So my understanding of the open meeting law, which is enforced by the Attorney General,
yes. Yep.
is that you can allow remote participation. That's been a thing since
yes.
the open meeting law. So I'm not sure that this is written correctly. I'm not, will need to be held in person is probably true, yep. But people have always been allowed to participate remotely. So I don't think that Zoom ends when June 15th comes around.
So no, it doesn't necessarily end, but did Dighton, so the remote participation for board and committee members, that is a local option, and did Dighton ever actually adopt that local option before the pandemic?
So it's not the town that adopts that, it's each board and committee votes on allowing people to participate remotely, and obviously since the pandemic started, we did do that.
Yes.
So,
That's for board members, though. You're talking about board members, not the public, right?
Yes.
well, I mean, if someone wants to call in and they have the number, I don't see why the law would prevent that from happening.
I think the law does though, prevent that.
It does?
It does.
We can be remote, or one of us can be remote, you're on a vacation, whatever, you want to attend your meeting, you can still attend it. Not that I'm encouraging people to go on vacation and attend one of these meetings.
Yes.
But I have mixed feelings, quite frankly, about this. I don't like Zoom.
Nobody does.
Well, having said that, in the middle of December or January, when it was cold, it was nice to be in my dining room, have the meeting and walk a few more feet, take my dog out and then go to bed, versus dealing with the weather. So I do have mixed feelings about it. It is helpful to those that are disabled, that aren't able to physically come here, and they're able to participate at home and make comments or say something. So I do have mixed feelings about it. The board needs to think about that, obviously.
And I think the governor's gonna weigh in on it in the near future here too,
Yeah.
so.
I personally like the idea of a hybrid meeting. I'm also wondering if some boards have become very comfortable with Zoom to the point that they don't have the public present. So I'm glad to see that the governor's actions on June 15th will require meetings to be held in public. I see many benefits to Zoom. We've had some technical issues, but that's more on our end. Allowing more participation in government is a good thing. And now they can do it from their home. It is certainly more convenient.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that some boards, they have a Zoom meeting, but the public isn't aware necessarily of the Zoom meeting or doesn't have that information. So if we decide we're going to continue with Zoom, I think we ought to make an effort to make sure the public has access to that information, either posting it on our Facebook page or whatever, but make sure that each committee and we're going to get into this a little later, but each committee and each board, that information is out there for the public if they wish to attend a Zoom meeting.
Mr. Pilling, I do have one further question. You know that list that you just showed me?
The weekly list, yeah.
Could I have a copy of that? It wasn't in my packet. That's why.
Yeah, it's that. Oh, it's not in a packet. I get it, I believe.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I didn't.
Who do you send? I know you sent it to me. I think you sent it to Tom. So maybe, why don't we?
Yeah, we can start getting that out. I can get that out to everybody.
Yes.
I apologize.
Yeah, I've been, when you haven't been able to be here, I've given, from that list, I've given a semi-report.
Yeah, well, I have a problem sending emails to 3 board members, because if they reply and that kind of thing, so I usually try and do just one.
Send it
so,
to me, and
yeah.
send it to Mike, and then Mike will see to it, or send it to Karen or Leanne, and then they will see to it, the other members. Yeah.
You're welcome.
So I have a question about if the governor does, and thank you, Mr. Pilling, for this presentation. It's really done well. If the governor does decide not to allow public to participate remotely, and I think everyone would be in agreement, like, we really need to get that word out so people understand, because we've been very vocal about wanting it to continue, and we've obviously have continued it. But I think we need to make it clear to people that this is just it's something we have to comply with. It's a law, and unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do it if that's what he decides, so.
So yeah, and if I could have a clarification in the first bullet, actually the first sentence. Under the current law, the public meetings and hearings will need to be held in person, and that will happen if the legislation that is mentioned, actually in the second sentence, isn't signed into law before the 15th of June. I think it's a reasonable assumption actually to actually imagine that that legislation will likely be in place before the 15th. However, like I don't want to assume anything, so that's why I mentioned both ways.
Yeah, I think maybe even by our June 9th,
There'll be enough.
Selectmen meeting, we may have that information.
Agreed.
I suspect it's going to be carried on till September, and then they're going to make a final decision on it.
Yep.
And we can talk about it, but obviously if we got until September, we might want to consider just continuing with Zoom until the state says we can't do it anymore.
Till the train, the rails, train comes off
Yeah.
the track. I wanted to ask you, or Mr. Commissioner, one last question about the plexiglass barriers, if that's okay. So I totally agree that they should stay for now, but do we anticipate a day when we won't have them up anymore? Or is this just like decision for the immediate future?
Well, right now it's for the immediate future, as I think we're from our end, and I assume we were gonna kinda get into this, is yeah, you see the case numbers going down, but what we're starting to see is more breakthrough cases, meaning somebody that's got the variant that's not the virus, vaccine does not protect you from that. So we're starting to see some of that, so there's still concern out there, and I'm speculating, just speculation, if we went through town hall, and I'm guessing only 50 to 60% of the people working in there are actually vaccinated. I know we can't ask, that's just speculation on my part based on national numbers, local numbers, et cetera. So I think there's still a need to protect. But as time goes on, and then there might be booster shots, et cetera, more people will get vaccinated or whatever, and I think there will be a time when it will go away.
Thank you.
But it's also helpful with flu and other diseases too. I mean, just wearing a mask, I saw somewhere that in the country, over 300 kids die from the flu every year, but this past year, because we're all wearing, or most of us are wearing masks, only one child died, and the flu numbers have really gone down for everybody else. I'm not saying that I want to wear this forever, but there is some benefits, and I think maybe keeping the plexiglass, as long as it doesn't hinder their work, might be something we might want to consider to continue with that, but that's somewhere down the road.
Well, if you're gonna continue with it long-term, we might wanna do something a little more permanent, built in, as opposed to just the movable
Yeah,
thing,
that
but
was-
that's, again, somewhere down the line, so.
That was kind of an emergency situation that we had to,
They work well.
yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I'm just saying you may want something a little less movable, that's all, if you're gonna make it a permanent thing, yeah, that's all,
I
so.
understand.
Yeah, I know ours, for the selectmen's office, it's not movable, it's right, it's fixed,
There are
but,
a few that are fixed in
yeah,
place, yes.
yeah.
So, but that's, if you're gonna make it forever, I think it
Yes.
should be forever,
Yes.
not.
That'll be a task for our building commissioner.
He's like,
to look at.
so,
So,
Mr. Chairman, do we want to,
Well-
are you wanting to?
we should, make a recommendation on these,
But you still get one more
Oh,
page left. Mr. Mullen can do that page, though.
oh, yes, yes.
So yes, like and actually like with the board's vote at the beginning of January, I believe the board did vote to continue the Dighton version essentially of the FFC extension to the end, to the expiration of the governor's executive orders. So like when those actually now that we know that they are being lifted on the 15th, after the 15th, that will be the end of the FFCRA time provision for our employees. And we'll begin actually getting that up there as long as the board agrees as well. And then even though the state is lifting its state of emergency, a lot of our local communities and the neighbors around us, are still actually keeping the local state of emergencies for the time being. And just in the event that anything, actually it comes back, or gets worse, I think a lot of our communities, especially with the CARES Act funding, eligibility, want to just actually keep that in place for the time being. At this point, at this point, we're not recommending that we lift our local state of emergency relating to the pandemic. So that is everything, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I just want to thank Mr. Pilling, Mr. Aguirre, and Chief McGee. They've been at this, with our prior town administrator well before I got here, and I want to thank them for their work as well.
So those last two items, then we actually don't have to take a vote on it because they're going to expire on June 15th.
Yep. It just,
And we can leave the state of emergency in until at some point, I'm sure, at some point, we're going to want to address that.
lift it, yep.
So before we take a vote, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to remind everyone that the FFCRA that we extended in January of 2021 was an employer-paid sick leave that we were generously paying the employees who happened to contract COVID-19, unfortunately, and were not able to perform their normal duties. I also wanted to thank the board and former Selectman Goulart, I'm not sure if she's on the line, but Selectman Pacheco, I think we did the right thing when we extended it, and I just wanted to thank my colleagues for supporting that.
And I believe you signed the emergency executive order.
That was
And
planning on my behalf.
Yeah.
Don't thank me too much.
and then we voted on that at the next meeting. It was the right thing to do, quite frankly. So, are you all done, Mr.
Well,
Pellins?
that was it with the slides that Mr. Mullen had. I don't have anything else necessarily they want to add, except that I want to thank the Dighton townspeople. I mean, Roz and I jumped into contact tracing around Thanksgiving, and it was a really, really long stretch there. I think to date we've talked to over 1,200 people since Thanksgiving. And yeah, we've had a few of them pass away on us, which, you know, like I say, wasn't a lot of fun. But out of those 1,200 people, I think we had one that was slightly not really wanting to give us information, but everybody else was cooperative and friendly and was open with us. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, people would hide that they were with people or whatever, but everybody, that's the natural reaction to do that. But it was good, because we've heard some horror stories about people just facing hostility and anger and swearing and everything over the phone. We didn't have to put up with any of that, thankfully. So I want to thank the Dighton residents for being cooperative as we went through this. So
That says a lot about our residents.
Before I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to thank you and Mrs. Grassi for doing that. I spoke to town administrators in other towns, and they were outsourcing, as you know, their contact tracing to that state agency that was 2 weeks behind all the time. And as you know, the life cycle of COVID was, you're back to normal in 2 weeks, if you're okay, if you make it on the other side. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that. And I think it meant a lot to residents, and the reason they were receptive to you is because they were getting a call from someone in Dighton.
Yeah,
They weren't getting a call from a state bureaucrat or anything like that. So it went a long way, and I really appreciate it.
all right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Roz is grateful also. So she did a lot of work with this too. So
Absolutely.
So I will entertain a motion to adopt the recommendations.
Before I make that motion, regarding the no gathering of information of municipal building visitors for contact tracing, I think there was some discussion by the board, and I just want us to be in some sort of agreement before I make the motion. So how do we want to approach that particular item?
I'm not in favor of gathering that information anymore. I don't know what,
I'm flexible, so
it's up to you, Mr.
As
Hull.
well. I mean, certainly I don't see it as an issue to go to war room, though. And Mr. Pilling did articulate the fact that we have other ways, you know, we have a pretty good idea who enters the building, so I'm okay with not collecting it.
okay. And my last question is, in my motion, I plan to make a slight amendment and just state that non-vaccinated employees or residents are required to wear masks in line with CDC guidance. Is everyone okay with that?
I'm not.
I'm okay with that.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the reopening task force recommendations on lifting COVID-19 restrictions with the amendment to require mask usage in line with CDC guidance for non-vaccinated employees and residents.
I'll step down and second that motion. Any further discussion on that? If not, I'll call for a vote. Mr. Hull?
No,
Dr. Z? And Campuchico is an aye. It passes 2 to 1. Mr. Pillings, thank you very much, and thank
Thank you,
Roz.
sir.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask me about, or are we good?
I think we've
Well-
annoyed you enough today.
Well, do you know if it's going to rain on Monday?
Yes, it is in the Monday. I talked to Tom Ferry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pillings.
Thank you, sir.
For your work.
Thank you.
Do we have any discretionary spending requests?
No, we don't, Mr. Chairman.
Public input? Is there any public input from Zoom? Are we getting calls?
No calls.
Nope. Nothing on the chat either, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Z, will you read the announcements, please?
I will. There's one announcement, Mr. Chairman, if I may, that's not on here, but it's important. From May 24th until July 4th, rideshare services like Uber and Lyft will be offering everyone in the country, so obviously in Dighton as well, free rides to and from COVID-19 vaccination sites. So that's really big. I pray that those rideshare services come to Dighton and know where Dighton is. But if they do, and you aren't vaccinated in all seriousness, you can do it for free.
Yeah, that is on the announcements.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'm sorry.
So that's why when you were saying that, but that's.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I didn't read it. The other announcement that is not here but is very important is from the town clerk's office regarding licensing and the leash law. License your dog, it's the law. Massachusetts general law requires that all dogs 6 months of age or older must be licensed yearly beginning on January 1st of each year. The town clerk's office assigns the dog licenses for the town of Dighton. Proof of a rabies vaccination certificate, not a rabies tag, is required to license your dog. Some exclusions apply. Please stop by or call the clerk's office at 508-669-5411, option 2, to license your dog or ask any questions. In most circumstances, dogs not licensed by June 1st are subject to an additional $15 fine per dog. Leash your dog. For everyone's safety, please be advised, according to the general bylaws of the town of Dighton, Article 29, Section 2, no dog shall be permitted in any street or public place within the town unless it is effectively restrained as above defined by a chain or leash not exceeding 6 feet. Dogs in violation of the leash bylaw are subject to citation and fines in accordance with Section 173A of Chapter 140 of the Massachusetts General Laws. Please refer to the general bylaws for the full description. That's very important. Please leash and license your animal. The town of Dighton public buildings are now open to the public. A Memorial Day ceremony will be held on May 31st, 2021 at 10 a.m. in the Dighton Veterans Park, 979 Somerset Avenue. All are welcome to attend. The Town of Dighton Food Bank distribution will be held next on June 19th, 2021, located at the Town Hall, 979 Somerset Avenue, lower level as a drive-through. The Dighton Historical Society presents the 4th annual Dighton Strawberry Festival, June 19th, 2021, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Please join us as we celebrate Dighton's strawberry tradition. This is hosted by Under the Sun Farms at 1050 William Street in North Dighton. There will be strawberry shortcakes, more than 25 local vendors, live music, hay rides around the farm, and fun activities for family. This program is sponsored, and this is an important part, in part by a grant from the Dighton Cultural Council, a local agency which is partially supported by the Massachusetts Cultural Council, a state agency. You can always find more information at DightonHistoricalSociety.org. Annual bulky item pickup is June 7th, 2021 through June 11th, 2021. Items must be out no later than 7 a.m. Tags may be purchased at the Board of Health office located at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Avenue in the lower level. The annual town meeting will be held Monday, June 7th, 2021 at the DR Regional High School Auditorium at 7 p.m. with the special town meeting beforehand scheduled in the same location at 6 p.m. Thank you.
And we hope to see everybody at the annual town meeting. The next agenda item is Board of Committee Spotlight, and we're spotlighting the Zoning Board of Appeals. we have nobody here from the Board of Appeal.
So I believe Miss Easterday, if she's on the line with us, she is supposed to be joining us.
I believe they may be currently in a meeting.
Mr. Gale is here from the zoning board of
Oh,
appeals.
yes.
Can we have we have a statement, Mr. Gales, from Kerry, but if you want to, we're spotlighting the ZBA, and I know that you're a member of the ZBA. You want to speak to that, please?
What would you like me to share? What we do, or?
Yes, so should we, do we want to read we got a communication from Ms. Easterday. Should we read that, maybe?
Yes, please.
Somebody want to read that, or you want me to?
I don't know where it is in my thing.
I'll read it if, the zoning board of.
I have it. Do you want me to read it?
Yes.
I'm sorry. The Zoning Board of Appeals currently has openings for associate members. Being an effective ZBA member requires a willingness to get involved in your community, to become informed, and to use common sense, fairness, and objectivity towards all that appears before you. You must try to balance the public good with private rights and interests. The Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA, is under the jurisdiction of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 14. The ZBA is a regulatory board consisting of 3 members and 3 associate members appointed by the Board of Selectmen. The ZBA holds monthly regular meetings and public hearings, held on the 4th Wednesday of every month concerning the following items. 1, applications for a special permit to allow certain uses that require discretionary approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The ZBA considers these cases by evaluating criteria established in the zoning bylaws and may impose conditions on an approval that they deem as necessary to protect the health, safety, or general welfare of the public. 2, applications for a special permit or variance to deviate from specific zoning requirements such as minimum lot size, dimensional limits on density of development and height of buildings, and required setbacks from adjacent properties. 3, applications for extension, change, or alteration of structures or uses that do not meet current zoning requirements, but did meet regulations in place at the time of their establishment. These privileged non-conforming structures or uses may be extended, changed, or altered by grant of a special permit. 4, applications for comprehensive permits for construction of low or moderate income housing by a public agency, limited dividend, or nonprofit corporation, as set forth in MGL Chapter 40B. And 5, any person aggrieved by the refusal of the issuance of a building permit by the building commissioner / zoning enforcement officer may appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The ZBA works cooperatively with the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, Board of Health, and the Highway Department to ensure protection of the town's environment while providing zoning relief when appropriate. And we both started on the Zoning Board of Appeals, I believe.
On the zoning board for 17 years, and before you became a selectman, Dr. Z, you were also on the ZBA, so it's a very interesting committee to be on. Mr. Gale, would you like to add anything to that, please?
I think, well, first of all, I believe that Carrie Easterday isn't there because we actually have a zoning board meeting in about 10 minutes, so she's probably preparing for that.
Sure.
I am currently the clerk of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I think most people associate right now, at least the Zoning Board of Appeals, with Strawberry Fields. So that's an example of one of the items, the last item that was just read. Zoning Board of Appeals is very involved in doing the behind-the-scenes work with the developers for projects such as Strawberry Fields or other 40B or low to moderate income development projects which might be proposed for the town. Similar to what you said, we do hear, a lot of what we hear are resident matters, whether it be putting an addition on a house, making a garage have a second floor, perhaps putting a building on a piece of property that will bring it closer to the edge of the property, so there may need to be a variance issued in some cases. There may be a piece of land where somebody owns 4, 5, or 6 acres and they want to build a second home on that acre, and on that acreage, in some cases we can allow it, in some cases we can't. So those are the general types of things that the Zoning Board of Appeal hears. Carrie Easterday is the secretarial support person for the town. She's the administrative person for the town. She is there 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and Monday through Thursday, excuse me. She is very, very, very knowledgeable at assisting any of the town's residents with the application process or answering any of the general questions that residents have. Right now, we just lost 2 members. One left because he is moving to another part of the state, and another one left for issues related to her work and her needing to be at work more often in terms of the hours required. And we have 1 vacancy, so we do have 3 vacancies currently. We have 1 person who we will be discussing this evening. If that person is accepted to be a member of the ZBA, then we will still have 2 spots to fill. So we are always looking for Dighton residents who actively would like to be involved in the Zoning Board of Appeals. Yes, it does help to have knowledge and understand how zoning works and what the processes are. There are wonderful books that the town can provide a person to look at that information with all the regulations and procedures and so forth. And several of the members of the zoning board are much more knowledgeable than I am in terms of, and have been on it for a long period of time as well. So I would encourage any of the town residents who are interested to check Carrie and put an application and be considered.
Thank you, Mr. Gale, and thank you, Ms. Esther Day, for submitting that letter. I believe this is as a result of Dr. Z. I think you requested this, that at each of our meetings that we highlight or spotlight a particular board or committee that's in town. We have a lot of boards and committees. The public doesn't know a lot of what they do, and we need members to volunteer for this, so I appreciate the fact that you put this on the agenda.
I can't take all the credit. This was actually, my idea was to do a short sentence about each board or committee. And when Mrs. Kerwin called me and she said, I think it might just be better to do a lengthy spotlight on just one every meeting. Sure. And I think she was right. So thank you, Mrs. Kerwin.
Yeah, I had asked her that I didn't want a whole list of all the committees and the description. I thought this was a good suggestion. And, but it was thanks to you that it's even on the agenda.
Maybe, can I make one suggestion, Mr. Chairman? When we do these spotlights, can we just make sure that document is uploaded to that board's webpage? Because that's really helpful to see that little document with all that information on what they do. I think it's good.
Thank you. The next agenda item is the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going back to my agenda, so we are planning for the town meeting, as you know, for Monday, June 7th. The special town meeting will begin at 6 o'clock in the evening, with the annual town meeting to follow at 7 p.m. And that is, and as we know, that's going to be in the auditorium, of DR, with the governor's announcement. We were making a lot of contingencies and planning with actually the social distancing requirements. Like with those eased up, thankfully we can go actually back to having a more normal town meeting. So like we're continuing to plan with that. We've been working actually with Attorney Costa, with Attorney Gale, and thank you, Dr. Z. The town moderator, and everyone is in the same loop. So we should be in a really, really good position for town meeting. Next up, you have in your packet, I think if I could ask Ms. Brady to share, you have the FY20 independent audited financial statements and management letter. And I really want to bring your attention to the management letter. Starting on, actually officially, it is page 4, but it actually says page 2 of 6 in your packet. With the financial overview.
That's at the end of the, is that at the end of that?
Yes, it's at the end, toward the end of your packet, yes. It's also up on the screen for everybody as well.
It's going to take Brett and I a few minutes to get to it.
I'm going to just look over.
Okay. So, and I do have a town accountant. He's actually with us tonight too if there's any more detailed questions on the financial overview and the management letter. But you will see financially that the town really continues its really strong fiscal position. And I think, as I mentioned before, like it's a credit to the prior town administrator, the board, the FinCom, and the residents and everyone, like in all of our department heads really making sure, that we, like as a community, really continue in really strong financial stead. Like you can see the increases in our unassigned fund balance, in our OPEB trust fund, in our stabilization fund. And really we have a solid financial position, and we ended actually FY20 in a really strong way that allowed us really to continue forward with the unknowns that we have faced in FY21. And even as we know the adjustments that we had to make in this year's budget process as well. We ended FY20 in a very strong position. We've had, with our town accountant, we continue a really good relationship with our auditors as well. And they're really happy, especially with our priority that we place in the OPEB. They're really proud of that, and they always really comment on the town's commitment to that as well. So then in terms of the informational, items in the management letter, they want us and they recommended that we be aware of the network security issues that continue to plague cities and towns and all types of organizations we are. We're actually working with our insurance company on an additional cybersecurity insurance policy. And we have a really great relationship with Chris Rano as well, and we even talked to him as recently as yesterday about the security of our firewall, about phishing attempts, and all those things. So, I think we're really on the top of our game there, but we never know what we don't know, so we continue. I have to be very vigilant about that. I just mentioned phishing as well, that relates to our network security, and as you know, we also, I think in February, the town got a grant from the state, and we're continuing along with that as well.
Everybody do your training. I've been getting the emails. I think I didn't do mine in a timely manner.
I thought it was the only one.
Well, at first, in my defense, I thought it was a phishing scam, so I didn't click anything.
Oh no, I did the same
And then I
thing.
realized it was a real thing I have to do. So my apologies.
So then under information, the rules around the GASB pronouncements, they continue to change and be updated. So we have to keep an eye and be ready to adapt to those as well. And going into fiscal year 22, our auditor really wanted us actually going forward to pay attention to GASB 87, which requires a lot more detailing for operating leases and assets as well. So that is going to be a priority as we go forward, with our new, with our current and then our future town accountant as well. And then around fraud risk mitigation, and then they mentioned, that the minor issues that they're still raising from the prior year. They continue really to make a point about the importance. That they're recommending to convert to a bi-weekly payroll rather than an every week payroll. That would have a cost savings and just carry with it a lot of efficiencies based on the fact that with a weekly payroll, a lot of time is sucked up every week to do that. Then actually moving on to their findings, there was actually raised a conservation deposit issue. And that has been adjusted and reconciled, and if I believe that is one of the reasons why I know we have actually accounts with very, very little money in them, and just really to close them out and move them into the general fund. That's a recommendation. There's a motor vehicle excise tax issue which relates to uncollected excise taxes going back before 2011, and the treasurer is on top of that and has a plan to reconcile and deal with that as well. And for the second year in a row, we have a comment on the police, on the police of detail receivables. And this is an issue, it's an issue, as I just mentioned, that we, has been commented on 2 years in a row. The issue also received significant attention at the November town meeting. And it's something that we understand is an issue. Actually about a week and a half ago, I brought together the town accountant, the treasurer, the chief of police and other employees at the police. In the department, we have a new system called GTS, which actually should be able to track and actually reconcile all the receivables along with what actually is outstanding. And then take that information and do monthly reports so we know where we are. At the end of March, just as an example, we were around $66,000 in the hole. So, and that if that deficit, actually continues to the end of the fiscal year, that affects how we close out and thereby affecting our free cash number as well. So we began having a real serious heart-to-heart conversation on that issue. I don't really like seeing that in the management letter 2 years in a row. I don't think any of us really do. And it's my, it's our plan and my plan really to work with the department and work with the board to really fix that issue. In the next few weeks, once we get through town meeting. I would love to come back before the board with a policy for the board to consider for approval. And then we can really outline the steps that we need to take to address that issue. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to bring all those issues to your attention and take any questions. As I mentioned, the town accountant is on the line with us as well, and we'd be happy to talk about any of this.
Sure, just so the public knows, the aging detail information, when a private entity asks for a police detail, they're given a figure as to how much they're going to pay for that detail. The town pays the police officer that money, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And then we send an invoice to the entity, and we wait for them to pay. And is it 66,000 you said?
Through the end of March, and a lot of that might actually level out as we move forward to the end of the fiscal year. But that is a concern that if it doesn't, and one of the questions we have was, well, how much, we know we're 66 grand in the hole, but what is the overall receivable that's out there? In the current tracking system we're using, we're not able to easily provide that information, which is a problem.
So I look forward to coming up with a new policy, and once we get that policy, maybe on a monthly basis, we can get an update
Yes.
as to what the figures are.
Exactly.
That's pretty troubling, because the taxpayers are paying that money when some.
They were fronting that bill.
Right, they're
Yeah.
fronting it, and we may not get some of that money, and that's not fair to the taxpayers. Did you say you were going to say something? I thought I heard you say something. No?
I was going to say
Dr.
something.
Z?
Yes. I actually think this is a really big problem. Do we have a reason for why these reports were never given? It literally says here, the maintenance of management of police details is generally exclusively the responsibility of the police department. So I appreciate you saying we're going to put our heads together and figure it out, but really, this fell on the police department. So we can't do any auditing or reconciling if we don't have the reports. That's extremely troubling. And it wasn't just 1 year, it was 2 years. And it also says here, the town accountant, who was our former town accountant, not Mr. Laviolette, would review and perform the police details receivable reconciliations. That's where we figured out if we got back what we put in. It is unknown if the police detail receivables have been reconciled since the departure of the previous town accountant. The reason why this is such a big deal is because we're supposed to be accountable and transparent. And I understand this was the police department's exclusive responsibility, their wording, not mine, but it still falls back on us because we are the arbiters of the tax dollars. So I agree we need a policy, but I think we need to have a bigger discussion about what's going on and why these things aren't being managed properly or at all. So I look forward to having that conversation.
And I think our town administrator has had those conversations with those, the people involved in this. So hopefully, when we come up with a policy, everybody's in agreement as to how we're gonna go forward with this. And this, like you said, this needs to be addressed. This is something that we can't just let go by the boards. I don't wanna see that in the report next year, quite frankly.
There should also be, there's a policy manual that governs the police department. Do we know if this is in their policy manual? Like, my question is, why are we having to make a policy for one specific department? Like, this is something that they should manage internally. Like, where is their policy on how they manage these things? I would love these answers, and I'm not upset. I'm just, these are the things we need to know so that this never happens again.
Question I have, who in the police department is responsible to track down this money?
What was,
That's a great
ultimately,
question.
it's the chief.
what was the question?
Who in the police department is responsible to track down?
I would prefer that we not identify any employee at the police department who's responsible for this in a public forum, quite frankly.
Yeah, my answer is I honestly don't know, but that's why I look forward to us all putting our heads together and really figuring it out, because, you know, we want the auditors to know that we're managing everything properly, that's all. I had a couple other questions, if that's okay. And you may not be able to answer it, so I totally understand. Regarding the cybersecurity policy, as you know and mentioned, we did get the IT grant. We are doing our training. My question is, you know how you do like a defensive driving course and you get a discount on your policy? If we're gonna have a cybersecurity policy, do our measures result in discounts on our potential policy?
So actually, I want to thank Mrs. Brady for working to fill out basically with our network administrator, Mr. Ron, basically everything we are doing and the in the protocols and the grants that we have pursued and received. Hopefully, I'm hoping that will all help in in terms of an overall. In terms of an overall premium amount, hopefully that shows, and it shows we are already diligent. That is my hope, but we don't actually know that.
And will we shop around for that policy, or will we get it from our current vendor? I guess is my other, sorry if these are two.
So we will go to our current agent who will shop around for us.
Okay, perfect. Regarding things like bi-weekly payroll, I'm getting more to the suggestions now on how we can free up people's time and taxpayer money. If we were to do something like bi-weekly payroll, is that something that the board thinks that the town administrator could work on with our next town accountant? When we have like a more permanent, they've been here a little
I was
while?
thinking the same thing. I want to wait for next,
Awesome.
once we appoint a new town accountant and have the town administrator. I just want to make sure that it's not violating any of the contracts.
Exactly.
Yep,
That's a big question.
That's a big consideration.
Yep. And when I worked for the state, it was weekly, and then they went bi-weekly, which was okay, but not everybody can be okay with that. So I think it's something that we need to look into.
Awesome.
And let's wait for our new town accountant to come on board.
Sounds good. And my last point is, could we also think about, or is the board amenable with the town administrator working with the new town accountant when they're situated and know the ropes and everything on the assets tracking program? And it's something we kind of have already in place, but just not the program.
Yes, I've talked about this in the past. I brought this up with our former town administrator. I wanted to control our assets, and I think we then increase, the value of the items and stuff like that. But I thought that was being done, but apparently we don't have a good system for that, and that's something that we ought to look into, because the residents need to know the assets that we have and that we're keeping track of whatever we have, computers, whatever.
So yeah, like, and if I could, like, and I actually want to, like, first of all, like, and I should have, like, actually done this at the opening, but really thank our current town accountant for all his work. The fact that we end up with, like, actually, like, a really strong, like, a really strong fiscal position and, like, a management letter, which, I mean, we have work to do, but it always has the potential to be worse. I want to thank him, but like in terms of the tracking of assets, what we really need to do in accordance with, I believe it is GASB 87, like is tracking our lease assets as well. So we already track and we do a good job like of the assets we own, but now any leases that we have, like we have to track them and they become part of our financial statements and liabilities as well. Did I answer that, Chris?
Yeah, I'm not sure Chris heard you.
Chris, was that a good answer?
Yeah, so, again, getting back to conversations that started back when I started working for you folks a couple of years ago, relative to asset tracking, you've got really, so there are two issues at stake. Are we looking to inventory everything that we own, or are we just simply looking to inventory the things that we know that have value? And what I mean by that are going to be, mobile assets like your laptops. I would say any computer peripheral equipment has value. Printers, scanners, label printers, anything electronic is definitely something you want to consider. But beyond that, I mean, if again, it gets, maybe you want to be concerned more about the asset type rather than asset value in terms of determining what you want in your inventory. I mean, I understand that there's been prior history relative to maybe small power tools or small hand tools, maybe things that typically aren't inventoried very regularly. Things like, I'll give you for example, like we don't inventory the street salt. We don't inventory sand for the roadways. Tommy probably doesn't, the highway superintendent probably doesn't inventory a lot of the materials that he had, manhole covers, hydrants, pipe, even small supplies. And the other thing I want to bring to the attention is that, there's a cost benefit here. Your inventory is only as good as you can maintain it on a regular, effectively a daily basis. So the day that you take that inventory, that's the best information you're ever going to have, unless you've got somebody watching inventory move to and fro about the town. Best way is probably to put RFID tags on if you want to know where stuff specifically is.
Yeah.
The other opportunity is to just put on, if I'm not mistaken, the police department has the ability to do etchings on like bicycles and whatnot. It was a program they started probably about 20 years ago where you could etch assets as well. And then you basically take an inventory and, you require department heads to provide you with a listing of everything that they have by asset number. And that there'd be a master inventory list.
Yeah, I actually thought
Those
that's
are
what we
probably
did.
the best ways to get this stuff into.
But we never, so, I'm sorry, Selectman Pacheco said that's what he thought we did, the second explanation that town accountant gave us. We did, like, on paper, but there was never, and what you're getting at, town accountant Laviolette, is there's not something on the item that tells us where it is or if it's been returned. So
exactly. The only thing you have, so we've got two things going on.
Mm-hmm.
You have the insurance company that has a basic list of vehicles, equipment, and property that the town owns, which are also reflected in the records that I've been maintaining and that Jen had been maintaining in the software that the auditors mentioned, and now in an Excel, it's just a simple Excel spreadsheet. But those are the things that you're going to recognize also as fixed assets, something that is material enough in dollar amount to be reflected in the financial statements. Some of what we're talking about tonight probably doesn't rise to the level of recognition in your financial statement. Those desks that you're sitting at, the microphones that you're speaking into, the chairs that you're sitting on, Heck, the laptops that you might be using if you have one there in front of you. Those are not things that you're going to recognize or are going to have enough value to consider measuring in the financial statements, but certainly you still want to know what you have, because it's better to know what you have than what you don't have, in terms of value. So what you have is basically we're looking at all the big ticket stuff, the stuff that you can kick, the stuff that you can touch, the stuff that the town has spent significant dollars on. Your fire engines, your front end loaders, your vehicles, all your buildings, all the land that either you've purchased or you've taken control of via the tax title process, all of the sewer pipe in the ground, all of the roadways. Those are the things that get measured in the financial statement. I think what we're talking about now, or what you'd like to add to that, is now the ability to track the laptops, the cell phones, if we've purchased cell phones for staff.
Agreed.
But anything that would generally you could sell on eBay or on Amazon or someplace else on the dark web, even if it's for small dollars. Some of the specialized equipment, maybe not so much. I guess it really depends on how much is accumulated in each of the departments. Some of the stuff just simply, for insurance purposes, generally there's just blanket coverage on a lot of the small stuff. But you can certainly get coverage on some of the things of value. You can get like a rider on the policy to cover all electronic equipment. It depends on how much control you're really looking for in the grand scheme of things.
Well, I would like as much control as reasonable. We need to know what we have and what we don't have. When I work for the state always gets criticized, but every year I had to do inventory, and if I moved a computer to another room, I had to justify moving it to another office or whatever. I'm not saying we keep track of this, although, by the way, I paid for this myself. This isn't the town property. Not the minor stuff, but like you said, Chris, any electronics or anything like that, that's very important. And any of our bigger assets, I think it's important that we keep track of, and maybe on a regular basis, once we get this done, yearly basis, maybe check to make sure that we have all this.
Absolutely. You're going to want to do it once, just like any other retail establishment. If we're talking about a supermarket, if we were talking about Target or Walmart, when they do annual inventory for the auditors, same idea, and that way you hold all the departments accountable for the things that they've purchased over the years.
Thank you. Chris, do you have anything? Do you have anything else you want to add to the report that we received?
No, I thought it would. I was really pleased with the results of the audit. There were some things, especially the financial highlights. That's a nice piece of the management letter. Typically, the management letters, most management letters that I've reviewed do not go into that. The idea of the management letter is to be critical in nature and not to criticize in a negative way, but to help out when there are issues with internal control. But what I'm really pleased with relative to that management letter is that the auditors have taken the time to point out all the good things beyond just the basic internal controls that are going on in town, and the fact that the financial situation, in spite of COVID, at least for fiscal 20 right now, the town did well. I'm not so sure that you'll read such a I don't want to be Debbie Downer here, but I don't think that I would be surprised if the results at the end of fiscal 21 will be similar to what you've seen as at the end of fiscal 20. Hard to say right now because fiscal 21's not done yet, but I don't think it'll be quite as rosy a picture. And again, it's just the result of the pandemic more than anything. The fact that there was a slowdown in the economy, people are home, a lot of people are out of work. I'm not seeing it on the receipt side right now. People are still paying their real estate tax bills. People are still paying their excise tax bills. In spite of what you saw in the management letter tonight, most people are paying their excise tax bills. And because there's simply a good system in place in the state to allow the treasurers to mark registrations and make it difficult for people to re-register their vehicle when it comes time, or to renew their licenses. Because it's not a right, it's a privilege to drive a vehicle in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for all you've done for the town.
Thank you.
It was a good report. Town Administrator, please.
Yeah, so moving on, Mr. Chairman. So just an update on the Cannabis Policy Advisory Board, which met actually last evening. And when we met, we actually discussed a host of interests that is actually coming into town from entities who are interested in cultivation marijuana. And to that point, we actually have two right now scheduled upcoming community outreach meetings. One is for Pure Oasis, which is proposing a facility at 620 Spring Street. That community outreach meeting is right now scheduled for June 10th. And then...
What time? On the 10th, sorry.
So I believe it's 6 o'clock, Dr. Z, but I can follow up with a specific time.
That's a Zoom, a virtual meeting?
Yes, that is a virtual meeting.
Get them in while you can. Good job, Pure Oasis.
Then on June 14th, which is a Monday night here, I believe also at 6 o'clock here at Old Town Hall. So I'm not sure of the entity's name, but there is a proposed cultivation facility on William Street.
Strawberry Fields.
Thank you, Strawberry Fields LLC. No relation to the other project in town.
40B.
To the 40B.
Forever.
But on June 14th, that will be happening here. You will see actually further down in the agenda, we have representatives from Marigrow who will be asking for approval of another virtual community outreach meeting. So there's a lot of interest for cultivators in town right now. And one of the things that the Cannabis Policy Advisory Board discussed last night was really having a flow chart process very similar to the RMD flow chart process that we have actually currently. So over the next 3 weeks, the board will be working really to create one so there's uniformity in terms of expectation, and so when there is an entity that's interested, the process is outlined actually very uniformly for all involved. So
will that come back to us once they're done? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Cool.
So so that's an update on that, Mr. Chairman. And then the town accountant hiring process. The application process is continuing till I believe this Friday. Then the application process is closed. As of right now, we do have 6 applicants. We do have a process very similar and exactly the same as the last process. To bring together the treasurer, the chairman of FinCom, and myself to screen the applications in order to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. In very short order, we want to really keep actually working to move forward on this, so we don't miss a beat. And we do have some applicants that I think are really going to be really good applicants to be able to present to the Board of Selectmen. So if you have any questions on any of those issues, Mr. Chairman or members of the board.
I don't have any questions.
I'm not
I'm
sure if
Dr.
it's
Z has one.
I think it's more of a recommendation.
Okay.
And I know we've spoke about this briefly, but it's something I want to put on the radar for the board. Not for a vote or anything like that. We have an assessor, principal assessor, who is retiring, who was here for many years and did a great job. We had a town accountant before Mr. LaViolette who had been here many years, knew the ropes, knew which levers to pull on to get the job done. And then we had Mr. LaViolette. I think since we're going to have some turnover on the Board of Assessors, and we've had some turnover in the accounting office, I think we may want to consider, and I spoke briefly about this with Town Administrator Mullen, considering hiring like a financial consultant to come in and make some financial recommendations, just based on practices and how things maybe could be tidied up. For example, how is the principal assessor chosen? Right now, it's just the chair of the Board of Assessors. Town Administrator Ernstine, when she was here, thought that that was not the best structure to have. So anyway, I don't know what you will do with that information that I forwarded to you, Mr. Mullen, but I don't know if you want to work with our chairman to see if he's amenable to any of those thoughts.
I'd be concerned about the cost.
Of course,
obviously.
I said that.
So like on that note, like everything that Dr. Z you just mentioned is music to my ears. But the even better thing is that the Division of Local Services, which is a subset of DOR, so they do. So they perform what they call a community management reviews, and they do it at no cost to cities and towns.
That's even better.
We've never had one before, so I hope, I think to Dr. Z's point, as soon as we get everyone in, actually reaching out to DLS, and asking them to come in and to do a report and give recommendations. I think we're at a point right now where that would be really, really healthy.
And I just want to be clear, when you say get them in, you mean we would have a town accountant.
Yes.
And then, because this process, I'm told, takes about 6 months.
Yes.
It's not like a quick, especially since it's free, so they take their time, rightfully so. The sense of urgency is good, especially since we know that our principal assessor is retiring and will only be staying on the board through April 2022. Yes. So I think the timing is right as well. So we have about a year.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Old business, library reopening update. I'm assuming that's why our commissioner's here? No?
I'm actually not, but...
Who has
but you will.
Who has the report?
Touch on that briefly. There will be a letter forthcoming to the board, which gives a detailed explanation of our findings at the last Building Needs Study Committee, which I've been elected chair. We had an excellent meeting. It lasted 2 hours, but it was the fastest 2 hours anyone could imagine. There were 3 participants at the meeting. Everybody had great input. We made some decisions, and we're going to have some recommendations to the board. So I'm going to put that together in a letter formally, and that should be on your desk for your next meeting.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I want to thank my colleagues for their work, because I held a vigorous schedule and they stood on track and we got some things done.
Good. Good. Selectmen's report. I have no report. Does any?
No formal report. Nope.
New business. First item is review, discuss, and act on Marigrow, 620 Spring Street request for a virtual community outreach meeting. Do you have any information on this, Town Administrator?
So yes, Mr. Chairman, I believe we do have representatives like from Marigrow on the line with us as well, but very similar to Pure Oasis. A few weeks back, Marigrow is actually hoping to conduct their community outreach meeting virtually as well, for the same location. And I believe Attorney Hepburn, are you going to be the one speaking?
Hi.
Could you give us some information on this as to what you?
Sure. So, I'm Haley Hepburn. I'm the attorney for Marigrow LLC. They're looking to establish a cultivation and manufacturing facility at 620 Spring Street. So we're asking that we be able to hold our community outreach meeting virtually. We can do that in the next probably 21 days, considering the newspaper notice requirements. So I have a draft letter I can send to you. It's not going to say anything about, you don't have to say that you agree with our zoning or HCA or anything like that, just that you allow us to have a virtual outreach meeting.
And how will you publicize that meeting? How will the public know about that meeting?
We'll put it in the newspaper. I don't know if you have a recommendation for a newspaper that's generally used in your town that you could give me. I'll use that newspaper. And then I'll send notification to all the abutters within 300 feet, anyone across the street. And then we have abutters in Taunton also. So the abutters to the property in Taunton will be notified also. And I'll send notices to all the town bodies also.
So we can, and we would definitely get that out on our website and social media as well.
Great, thank you. I also, I make a PowerPoint presentation for each outreach meeting that I do, so I can send that to you guys prior to the meeting, and you can post that on the website too if you would like to.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
Great.
Selectman Hull, you have a question?
Actually, just want to inform the board that I plan on participating, attending that, so
Nice.
I don't know if any of my colleagues are.
I'd like to be there,
If
yeah.
So we would need to post.
Post it. Yep.
If we could post that as well as the Pure Oasis as a Board of Selectmen's meeting,
Yeah,
so that we can comment, and ask questions.
That's true.
Yes. Thank you.
May I ask a question to Attorney Hepburn? You don't mind if we're there, right? No, I'm just kidding. My real question, is, I don't know how much information you have or are able to give on the plan for Marigro's operation. But do you mind, for at least the public maybe, just stating like what the plan is? Like, I know the original plan is to rent or lease, I'm not sure what the right word is, space at 620 Spring Street, which would, or is going to, or already is owned by Pure Oasis. Do you mind elaborating just for the public, just a general quick summary?
Sure. So Maripro is going to be leasing about 15,000 square feet of space in that 620 Spring Street building. It's a 500,000 square foot building. That's their phase one. In their phase two, they're going to expand to probably somewhere around 20,000 square feet. 15,000 to begin with will be dedicated to both cultivation and product manufacturing. So there'll be no retail location in the building, which would not going to be a lot of additional traffic. It's not going to be a public-facing operation. So only the employees are going to be in the building.
Awesome. Thank you.
So will you just be growing cannabis, or will you be making products also to sell to other?
Right, they'll be making products also, and those will be marketed to retailers.
Awesome. Okay. And, oh, I'm sorry. Is it okay? And I didn't say one question this time. I knew I'd have another one. And like Pure Oasis, I assume, and maybe I'm wrong, that Marigro does have a retail store somewhere, or do you just partner with other vendors?
Right now, they don't have a retail store, so they'll be partnering with other vendors, marketing their products to dispensaries across the state.
Awesome. And would this be Marigro's first cultivation site?
Yes.
Awesome. And my last question, you can hold me to this. My last question is, in the past, we have struggled with one of our RMD sites, adult and medical use, which was supported by the Board of Selectmen. It was supported by town meeting voters when an overlay district was needed. However, they have struggled a little bit because of the pandemic with the financial end. And I guess my question for you, and I'm not asking for specifics, but do you foresee any financial difficulties with your proposed operation?
We don't at this time, no. They should be ready. We could propose a timeline to you, and they should be ready to meet that timeline.
Thank you. No further questions.
I do have a question.
Selectman Hull?
Attorney, will you be manufacturing marijuana for medical use or recreational use, or both?
Our recreational use right now.
Okay, thank you.
So none of your products will be sold for medical use then? Because a lot of times they're similar products, they're the same product.
Right, it is a lot of the same, the same product, but licensed differently through the state. So right now, they're to the recreational side of the market.
Thank you.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I'm from the
Thank you.
I'm from the '60s, so my generation has been looking forward to this for many, many years.
A long time coming.
So, and we also want the tax revenue in town, so.
Absolutely.
Good.
I wish you the best of luck.
Very much.
Should we take a vote on this?
I'm ready if you're entertaining
Yes,
motions. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we approve Marigro's request, and Marigro is at 620 Spring, or will be at 620 Spring Street, request for a virtual community outreach meeting via Zoom.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll take a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. We wish you the best of luck. Look forward to that meeting.
Great.
We're here if you need anything. Please use us as a resource.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
So the next item is appointing someone to the Historic Commission. I'm the liaison person for the Dighton Historical Commission. And this is from the chairperson, Pat Gales. The Dighton Historical Commission interviewed the volunteer applicant, Gale M. Salvi, on Tuesday, May 11, 2021. The commission voted to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that Gale M. Salvi be appointed to the Dighton Historical Commission. This appointment will fill one of the 2 vacancies on the commission. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to appoint Gale Salvi to the Dighton Historical Commission.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll take a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Zagarfis?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. Next item is to appoint Jonathan Gale to the Municipal Building Study Committee. I'll entertain a motion.
Before I make a motion, is this proposal that he's a voting member, or maybe there's something in the packet that I didn't see? I'm sorry.
There wasn't anything, I don't believe there was anything in the packet.
Do we know what I'm not on that. You know, we had one meeting and we made you the chair. So I'm not involved. What is the proposal, Town Administrator Mullen? Is this to make Mr. Gale a voting member or a non-voting member?
This would, I think, on the agenda, based on the agenda, he would become a member.
What happened at that meeting? Because the only reason I'm asking is because every committee, like the Historical Commission just did, usually tells us what they want. So what was the consensus of the committee?
There was no discussion about making Mr. Gale a member, but as the chairman, I can tell you that I'm not in opposition on it.
Okay. I guess the only reason I'm asking is I don't remember how many members are on there. Is it going to be an odd number?
There are 5, so this will bring it to 6.
Is everybody okay with that? I have no position. It can be awkward sometimes if there is a 3 to 3 or any even number. That's my only issue.
Who brought this up? I mean, usually we get a formal letter of a recommendation, just like we did from the Historical Commission.
Yeah, it wasn't from the committee. We didn't.
It wasn't. I think I inadvertently brought it up because I thought he was already on it. And I said that at the last meeting, so that's how it got brought up.
I think he should be on it. However, and this is a question for the chairman, we want an odd number.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
I don't have a preference either way, but I can tell you that the 3 participants who were at the meeting last time were all listened to, were engaged in the discussion, and what they said was taken into consideration. So, you know, I don't see a need for him becoming a member, but he's certainly welcome at all the meetings, and, you know, he can have as much input as he likes. I would say, though, if the board does want to make him a member, that it's a non-voting member. That way we can stay with the 5 voting members.
well, I actually think he should be a voting member. We're talking about municipal buildings, and we want to make sure they're ADA compliant. I know the building commissioner is also involved, clearly, in making sure that the buildings are ADA compliant, but I do feel, my concern is that it's an odd number. Perhaps we should increase, and this is why I was addressing the chairman, increase the membership to 7. I'm not sure if that's a workable, too many people.
You know, if you're asking for my opinion,
Yes.
professionally and personally, I'd rather have the least number of members as possible and just have the right members on the board. Right now, we have a great group, we have a great membership. We accomplished a lot in 2 hours, so I'd like to keep it that way. Not to say that additional members wouldn't have input or, you know, we would have similar results. I just like it what it is.
So when we formed this committee, was it a 5-member committee?
I believe it was, and we stated at the time, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, all I was gonna say, like, is you gentlemen, I think, would have, like, actually more background than I would on this, because I wasn't here at the time.
So we were both here, and I think at the time, it wasn't that we said.
But are you a member?
I wasn't even really a member. I was just there because we said at the time, I don't think we said there's going to be this many members. We picked, not people, but positions. Like we said, the building commissioner, the town administrator. At that time, it was town administrator Erin Steen, and then she left, and so I had to attend the meeting, basically. But I guess my point is, I don't think we stated a specific number. We just identified players.
Right.
Positions, not names, who should be on it. So,
It worked very well.
yeah. Our first meeting was productive, so I'm just always hesitant to have, and no disrespect to anybody, but I'm always hesitant to have an even number because that
If
can be, yeah, you can actually not get stuff done because there could be a split. So I'm going to support making Mr. Gale, who I expect would attend the meetings whether he was a member, non-voting member, or not. I'm going to support making him a non-voting member.
I think it should be a member, but are you making that as a motion?
Only if you're entertaining and Selectman Hull is amenable.
Yes, I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to appoint Jonathan Gale to the Municipal Building Study Committee as a non-voting member.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? I think it should be a voting member. I don't know how many votes you take at your meetings. I'm not sure how. I understand an even number of the problem that can happen, but I'm not sure how many votes you take and how many times that would come up. But I'm opposed on the motion. I think it should be a member.
Let me ask you this. Is someone from the planning board on that group
Who are the members' positions, I should say?
position?
The positions are obviously myself, the fire chief, the member of the finance committee, the town administrator, and then we had someone from the outside who had building experience, actually construction experience. So the members actually work pretty well.
So no to answer your question.
Planning-
No planning board.
No. The planning board does play a role in development in this community.
It's really to identify what the municipal buildings are and what they need, and what the needs of the community are from a municipal perspective.
Just municipal.
Correct, yes.
And
It's
then
it's also, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, and then you would provide, as a committee, us recommendations for things like the library, buildings like the fire station number 1, which is in a floodplain, et
Right.
cetera.
It's actually, one of the things that we accomplished was creating a database that catalogs the buildings, the infrastructure, how old roofs are, heating systems are, windows, things of that nature, so that we can identify capital expenditures that are coming up and then plan for them. We can also use that ability to look after grant funds like green communities. We're able to do some infrastructural upgrades for green communities. So it's a very detailed database that will give us linear processes to maintain our buildings appropriately. It also does identify other items like renovation requirements. For instance, carpets. Nobody thinks of carpets. One of the things we discussed was age of carpets. We need to talk about when do carpets need to be replaced.
Absolutely.
So, it was a good, healthy discussion. And then there is accessibility questions that come up, which we now have a report that we can reference. So, I was very happy with the way it turned out.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? If not, ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is a no.
No abstentions? No, I'm just kidding. Just teasing.
We received a letter from Kristen Kearns from the Dighton Cultural Council. I have 2 new board members for Dighton Cultural Council that I need approval for. Can you let me know when they have been approved so I can have them come in to be sworn? How long until approval? Our current board has approved them. They are Allison Regina Matters and Hannah Wilson. So entertain a motion that these 2 people be appointed to the Dighton Cultural Council.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Actually, I'll take a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye.
Do they have any, just before we move on, are there any more vacancies on this, or are they whole now? They're full? The Cultural Council?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We have one more vacancy.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is to, I believe this is probably why building commissioner is here, is to appoint Jeffrey Marlowe as our local building inspector. Could you, I know we have some information, if you want to just speak on that, Commissioner?
Sure. Hello everyone. I know I've spoken earlier, but this is before you. It's long overdue. We've been discussing this for many years. This position has actually been funded for over 3 years. But quite frankly, I've expressed in the past that I needed the right individual because that person is an extension of me and my department. which I try to operate in a very professional manner, and I take it seriously. So that said, it's been difficult to find a candidate. I do have an assistant building commissioner, which we all know is Glenn Hathaway. This individual is not replacing that. Glenn is there to make decisions for me that can't be made by a local building inspector when I'm not in town or out of the area. What this position is it's going to allow me to shed some of the normal inspections, such as safety inspections on some businesses, establishments, routine inspections, decks, footings, siding, roofs, chimneys, etc., etc. It's not going to eliminate me from being in the field. I want everybody to know that because I like being out in the field. But what it is going to do is allow me to focus on more of some of the other things that we've discussed. And Selectman Zagrafis was instrumental this year in really giving me a push to say that needs to happen because, you know, there are other things in town that need to be addressed, and I can do those. Someone, you know, under me can't. So I think it's time to get someone. I finally have found someone. Mr. Mello was vetted in the town of Seekonk. I was on the interview committee. We had an opening in that town. So I met with the town administrator. I said, look, if we find the right individual, he can fill the gap in Seekonk, and I can fill the gap in Dighton. And it will be a win-win for both communities. So it worked out. Pastor Corey was hired by Seekonk, has gotten his certification for a local building inspector, so he's fully certified with the state. So it isn't that we have to hire him on a probationary period. He checks all the boxes that I was looking for. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to have your support, getting him on board. He would be a per diem employee, just as my other subordinate inspectors are, so they get paid by the inspection. And as I said, the money has been in the budget for several years now, so it wouldn't cost the taxpayers any more money.
So my question is, I guess he works full-time for CPAC.
Correct.
So he'd be working after hours or weekends?
So they have a different work day than us because they work 4.5 days a week. So he's out much earlier in the afternoon than we are. They start earlier than we do as well. And he has half-a-day Fridays, and we have similar work ethics. He's not afraid to work. So he would even do inspection on Saturdays if needed, which I don't want to promise will happen, but it may happen. What my thought was actually is that if it wasn't intrusive on the establishments, maybe the business inspections could happen on Saturdays, and then afternoon inspections for the other stuff. So,
any questions from the board?
Just a comment. I just, to my colleagues and to you, Mr. Commissioner, the only, I hope I wasn't pushing you. The only reason I ever brought it up was because your role has really evolved over the years. And I remember when I came in, and I feel like your title was building inspector, and now you're a building commissioner. We've asked you to really be the maintainer of all the town facilities, and it's a big job. And so I just thought your department, I should be clear, could benefit from another set of hands that could do some of the work that would free up your time to continue doing. We just throw a lot at you. And I think everybody knows that. You're working on the elementary school, middle school parking lot reconstruction. I mean, these are things that we don't even think about on a daily basis that you're doing little bit by little bit. And I really appreciate it. I hope you didn't take it as a slight, because you do an excellent job. And I just really appreciate you working on this.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take it as a slight at all. And I'm aware of the role that I've morphed into with this town, and I embrace it. I actually enjoy coming to work every day. So I want to continue on that path. But as I told you when we talked, I need to be completely confident with the person who's going to be my eyes now out in the field is doing what I'm capable of, and that was just a little difficult to find.
So on the appointment.
Well, I was just going to add, with the additional responsibilities and urgency of getting the library situation rectified, we're certainly going to need to free up Mr. Aguirre. So at this time, if that's okay, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jeffrey Mello as local building inspector.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second that.
Any further discussion? If not, how do you vote, Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Segafis?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye.
Good work.
Thank you, and thank you everybody at home for your support, I appreciate it.
To appoint town administrator. Review, discuss, and act on appointment of Mike Mullen Jr. to the Cannabis Policy Advisory Board. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appoint Michael Mullen Jr. to the Cannabis Policy Advisory Board.
I second it.
Any discussion? If not, how do you vote, Selectman?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye. Appoint Michael Mullen to the Capital Outlay Committee. I'll entertain a motion.
Before I make a motion on this is a bylaw that created this committee and, or recreated, I should say, this committee. And it states in that bylaw that was approved at town meeting that the town administrator, so is this an appointment we have to make, or are you just already on it?
So I'm on it, but I also need to get sworn in by the town clerk, and even if this is like overkill at all, I think like it's good really to have the process really solidified so then I can go to the town clerk and be officially sworn in.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to appoint Mike Mullen to the Capital Outlay Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Segafis?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye. Next item is to appoint Mike Mullen to the Municipal Building Study Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. Discussion, enhancing communication between committee commissions and the community. I believe this is something Selectman Hull has brought to our attention.
Mr. Pacheco, thank you for putting this on the agenda. I've only been on the board a very short time, but I've heard frustration on part of many people who have been inquired to serve on committees and commissions, who questioned when they were going to be interviewed. I also know that the Board of Health has canceled in relatively short time 3 meetings. I also understand that the Agricultural Commission, which traditionally meets the second Tuesday of the month, canceled their didn't schedule a meeting. I'm concerned that we need to create a better communication so that we look more professional in the eyes of the community. I currently am aware that there is a handbook that just recently went out, and I'd like to have the opportunity to put together an addendum to that, giving specific guidelines and requirements for these commissions and board as far as dealing with the public and also in regards to meetings. The meetings, I'm concerned we don't run into violations of open meeting laws. If a commission has been holding traditionally a meeting the second whatever of the month or the first of the month, there becomes an expectation in the eyes of the public that that meeting is going to be held. And if there isn't a meeting, then it should be published somewhere. And that's what I'd like to talk to my colleagues about, where they would suggest that we can post to say the meeting has been canceled. And also communications by minutes of those meetings be readily available to the public. There are some that do it on a regular basis and they're required by law. But I think whatever the commission or the group is, if nothing more that there would be bylaws sent to the Board of Selectmen's office, so they would be readily available, because it makes it difficult to answer questions from the community about all the various groups if we don't know what they're really doing. So that's where I'm coming from on that request.
I agree 100% what you're asking for, that we should have an addendum to that. I know that Dr. Z, you've worked very hard on that.
Yes.
That booklet that we've given, I believe we've given to all the committees. but I do agree that we should have an addendum to it. Will you be willing to work on this, Selectman Hull? And
Absolutely.
bring it back to us and we can discuss it and possibly vote on it?
Yes.
I know that this is something that you're very concerned about. I know one of the meetings that you mentioned, I got a phone call that night asking for the information, come to find out there wasn't any meeting that night, but it was scheduled that night, so, and I'm sure, Dr. Z, you've gotten the same, in fact, I contacted you regarding that,
I was part
so,
of that chain.
but if we had known that the meeting was canceled or postponed, it
Correct.
would have been a lot easier, but the public has a right to know when the meetings are being postponed or canceled. If our website says it's scheduled for that day, or that night, they should assume that it's gonna be, for that night, so,
Can I make a couple suggestions?
Sure.
So I'm totally in agreement, and I appreciate you, Selectman Hull, having only been here a few months, already recognizing that problem and thinking about how we can help solve it. I think one of the things we need to consider when we change the board and committee handbook, which I also believe this is where it should be, is part of the problem is we also don't know when someone submits an application, has the interview, and isn't selected. And so when we get a call in our office about that appointment, we literally have no idea what they're talking about because we have no communication back to us. So I would like us to consider, in order to solve that problem, is we might want to put the onus on the committee or commission or board that they're supposed to get back to candidates to let them know you've been selected, or no, you haven't been selected, thank you very much. I think another thing that we might want to consider is, yes, there's an open meeting law that governs minutes and how timely they are to be created, accepted, and put out there for the public. But we can make a policy or put it in the board and committee handbook to make it a policy or a practice that, we would like this done within 1 or 2 meetings, right?
Yes,
and I think
absolutely.
that's totally fair to say that. We should also, to get everyone on the same page, and these are just my suggestions, no one has to take them. It's just like different things I've noticed from being here so long, is that we should really, when people get appointed, we should let them know that it is the expectation of the chair or the clerk to get website access to their webpage. Let's say in this case, it's the Cannabis Policy Advisory Board. That chair should have webpage access to that specific page in order to upload their minutes and agenda in a timely manner. I think that would be really helpful too. I believe strongly that you should not have to come to town hall in order to obtain minutes. I mean, we can make these things electronically available. So those are just like my little suggestions, but we have to have a process or someone responsible. Maybe it's Mrs. Kerwin, who has sort of taken over website administration, to give that chair or clerk the website access. So that has to be outlined in the board and committee handbook so everybody is clear what the process is. So those are just my observations.
I totally agree.
I say you've been taking a lot of notes, so that's good.
Trying to write
A
a few
broken
things.
clock is right twice a day. I say this all the time.
So I look forward to this being brought back to one of our meetings.
Me too.
Do we have any correspondence? Any acknowledgements?
Just Mrs. Brady and Mrs. Kerwin. And town administrator.
Moving right along. Minutes. I'll ask for a motion to accept for review the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of April 14, 2021 and April 28, 2021.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. I ask for a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting minutes of December 2nd, 2020, March 24th, 2021, and April 7th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Zagafis?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye. Approval of the warrants. Warrants, I'd ask for a motion for warrants dated May 19, 2021, 47A-21, $98,987.90, 47B-21, $174,386.37, and 47C-21, $3,973.92, and 47D-21, $2,766,180. I suspect that that's the school assessment.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
I will, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye also. Warrants for May 26, 2021, 48A-21, $100,604.71. 48B-21, $18,678.67, and 48C-21, $184,840.93.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. Do we have any public input? Any public input? Looks like there's no public input. You have one?
I have
No, I have none. I'm going to ask for a motion for us to go into executive session. I do want the public to know that we will be reconvening. We will be going out of executive session, coming back into a public meeting. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 3, to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I so declare. A, Dighton firefighters, Local 4332, Dighton police officers, Mass Cop 306, and C, Rachel Road versus the town of Dighton.
So
like I
moved.
said, we will be reconvening. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, ask for a roll call of the vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is an aye also. Like I said, we will be coming back.
Thank you for hanging tight.
Our regular meeting, it's 9:05, and as a result of our executive session, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the memorandum of, I make a motion that we vote to ratify the memorandum of understanding between the town of Dighton and the Dighton Permanent Firefighters Association, Local 4332, as presented in the packet this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Selectman Dukakis? I was going to say Dukakis.
I'll take it. Aye.
President Dukakis, so you never made it, huh? And Campuchico is also an aye. I'll also entertain a second motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the memorandum, we vote to ratify the memorandum of understanding between the town of Dighton and Dighton Police Officers Local 306, Massachusetts Coalition of Police, as presented in our packet this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. If there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, ask for a vote. Selectman Hull?
Aye.
Dr. Z?
Aye.
And Campuchico is also an aye. Thank you. We'll see you on June 9th at 6 o'clock.
Thank
Our
you.
next meeting, and June 7th for our annual town meeting.
Thank you, Cable.